Hello again, this is Zach from Software Academy. So last time we installed Python and Pygame, and now we're ready to code. But if this is your first time coding, you might not even know where to go to actually start coding. So first of all, I'm going to show you the code editor that comes with Python by default. Now this should have installed when you installed Python. So actually we can go to our search bar again at the bottom of our screen, and we can search for IDLE. And you can see here, idle, Python 3.13 64-bit is the first thing that comes up for me. Yours might be different based on your version number or your operating system, but typically it should say IDLE and it should have this picture of a piece of paper with the Python logo next to it. So if you click on this should open up a new app. So you should get a window like this called idle shell and then your version number. It should have a bit of information about this install here. Now in the shell, we can actually type code straight into this window. So we can start with the word print. You don't need to worry about what this means right now. We'll cover this when we actually cover some code, but we just want to test to see if this works okay. So start with the word print. It should turn purple. That's how you know you spelt it correctly. And then pop in some round brackets. Now to get to these, you have to hold shift on your keyboard, and then while you're holding shift, press the number 9, and you'll see it will open up this round bracket here. And in here we have a bunch of information you don't need to worry about right now, but what we'll do is we'll follow up with, let's say, a number. I'm going to put in the number 5, like this, for example. And then finally, I'm going to hold shift and press 0 to get this closed bracket. And you'll see it flashed up in a darker color for a second there, just to show you that these two brackets have matched up. So it knows it's opened and closed with the number 5 inside. So you should have, in total, print, an open round bracket, the number 5, and a closed round bracket. And then if you press enter, you'll see it gives us the number 5 back. So as you can imagine, whatever you put in these brackets, it's going to give us back in this shell here. So if I did print and then I passed in the number 3, it's going to give us the number 3 instead. So you can see the code is working perfectly fine here. We should also test Pygame while we're here. To do that, we have to type in the word import. It should turn orange like this. We'll pop a space and we'll type in the word Pygame and press enter, and we'll see a message show up just letting us know that we've installed Pygame. So it should be a blue message with the name either Pygame CE or just hello and welcome to the Pygame community if you're using another version. And so we can see that Python and Pygame are working properly. Now we can continue to write code in here, but it looks like we can only do one line at a time, and this is going to be a bit hard to manage. So another thing we can do, if you press the file button in the top left and press new file here, it's going to open up a blank window like this. And so now we have two windows, one completely empty window and one with all this jargon in here. Now, like I said before, this shell is used to run the code, and we can actually just use it to only run the code. We can use this other window over here instead to write our code in, and this way we can write multiple lines all at the same time. So once again, I can put in my print, put in my brackets, and put in the number 5. And then underneath that, I can maybe do a print with 3. And you can see now I don't need to run them individually. They will still run one after the other, but I don't need to run the first one to then type in the second one. Now, in order to get this code to run over here, we need to go into this untitled window and press this run button. And you'll see that when you press run, it gives you a few different options. We're going to choose run module. Now you can see you can press the F5 key on Windows in order to quickly run this code without going into the menu, but it might be easier for now just to go to run and then run module and click on this. Now you'll see it pops up with a window saying source must be saved. So you can see here I've not saved this file at all. It's completely untitled. So we'll press OK here and it will pop up a little window, and we can just give it a name. I'll just call this one test, and then you can choose a location. I'm just going to choose the default location because this is just a test file here. And then once you've found a great place, you give it a good name, you can press the save button and it will save it in that location. And then you can see it's immediately run the code, and it's run this one first with print 5 and then this one with print 3. So this is technically all you need to be able to write and run code. The idle shell in order to run the code, and then from the idle shell you can either make new files or open existing files. In fact, you even have a recent files option here, so if you need to find something you've used recently but you can't find where it is on your hard drive, you can use the recent files and it should appear in this list. So there are a lot of ways to get to these code files, and then you can edit them and then go to run module, and it should do the output over here. So while this is the easiest way, there are a few drawbacks, especially when you're working in bigger projects like games. You'll end up having a lot of windows open, so you'll have, another file over here for the player, and then you'll have like another file over here for, for your enemy, and then you just got all these windows just stacked up, and you have to sort of maybe rearrange them in a nice way, and it's quite tricky when you have all these windows open. So there is an app that I like to use that lets you edit all these code files just in one place, and also run them. So in order to download this app, obviously we have to go to our web browser. I've still got Google Chrome open from last time, and I'll open up a new tab here, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in the letters V, S, and then the word code, like this. So VS is short for Visual Studio. So this is Visual Studio Code. If you press enter on this, you'll see Visual Studio Code is the first option here. And that should be code.visualstudio.com. So we'll click on this link here, and this will take us to Visual Studio Code. Now here we've got a nice big download for Windows button. Now again, if you have a different operating system, you can click on this other platforms and choose the right version for you. But for me, this comes up with the correct operating system, so I'm going to click on this download for Windows button. And once again, press save, and it should download. So like we did with Python, we're just going to click on this. It should run the executable file. You should get something like this, and it'll start with the license agreement. I've read this before, so I can just accept the agreement, but feel free to pause the video and just read this for yourself. But for now, I'm going to press next, and then it'll ask you where you want to save it. I'm just going to keep it in the default location, but you can browse if you know what you're doing there, and then press next. Then this will just give you one of those icons in the search bar at the bottom, so I'll press next on this as well. And then the last set of options are these 5 tick boxes here. Now, these bottom 2 are ticked by default, and I would keep those ticked. But these 3, they're completely optional. So I'm going to go through these 3 and tell you what they do, and you can decide whether you want them ticked or not. So this first one will create an icon on the desktop. This just means it's easy to just double click on an icon in the background of your screen and it will open straight up. So I'm going to tick this one. And these 2 will allow you to go to your code files and choose the open with code option. And this just makes it easier to open a file without having VS Code open already. So I'll tick both of those just for convenience. So as long as you have these bottom 2 ticked, that's all that matters, and we'll press next. And then finally, you can press this install button and it should start installing for you. So once this bar reaches the very end, we should get the app installed. So here we go. It says it's completed the Visual Studio Code setup. Excellent. And we can launch it straight off the bat. So I'll leave this ticked and press finish. And this should open VS Code for us. Now you should get something like this, and you'll get both a walkthrough and you get this Copilot thing here. I would just close the walkthrough for now because this is just about setting up VS Code. I'm going to close this tab at the top by pressing this X right next to its name. And then over at the right, you can see there's another tiny X here to close down the Copilot sidebar. So we should just be left with this blank screen here. Now, just like in Idle, we can go to File at the top and do New File. However, it gives us only 2 options, the text file and a Jupyter notebook. And what we want here is a Python file. Now, VS Code is very powerful. It can be used for a lot of different languages and a lot of different frameworks, but we do have to add in the extensions for it to understand these languages fully. So if you go to the left, you'll see there's this little icon here with these 3 squares and then 1 square slightly turned. And if you hover over it, it should say extensions. So if you click on this one, you'll see it gives us a list of all the extensions available for VS Code. Now, luckily, this very first one is the one we want. It's actually the most popular one, it looks like. We've got the Python extension. If this doesn't show up at the top, you can always use the search bar here, search for Python. And again, it should be the very first one that comes up. It's actually supported by Microsoft, so you'll see this little verified tick here. Now, all you need to do is press this blue install button next to the correct extension, and it'll start loading it up. You'll see it's given us a bit of information about it. You can read all this in your own time if you want to, but eventually it will open us up on this welcome page here. And we can follow these steps in order to set up our Python. So first of all, let's open a project folder. So this is a little bit different to Idle in that rather than opening separate files, we open one folder full of files. And that way we can manage all of our files in one place. And you'll see how we'll do that in a little bit. But first of all, I'll press this open project folder button. And you can see here I have a Python test folder ready to go. So I'll choose this folder. If you want to make a brand new folder as well, or use the one that we were looking at last time in Idle, then feel free to do that. However, I'll choose this folder and then press select folder here. And this will open it up in VS Code. Now, this is a folder I created, so of course I'm going to press yes, I trust the authors. In fact, I'm just going to trust the entire documents folder, and then I'll press yes, I trust the authors. I'll quickly close the Copilot thing because that's opened up again. In fact, it's taken us back to the entire default welcome screen for VS Code. So let's press this back button to go to the previous welcome. You can see, once again, it's not here. However, on the side here, we do have get started with Python development still. So we'll click on this one and we can see we're back on our list. So we've got our folder open, then a few convoluted steps to go back to this screen here, and we can carry on by creating a Python file. So remember before, it only gave us the option of text file and a Jupyter notebook. Here, if we press this create Python file, you can see it's created a new tab over on the side here. Now, this is one of the ways we can manage multiple code files at once, is we can have 2 separate sections with different tabs in. I'll show you another way later on, but first of all, let's set up this file here. So just like in Idle, we have just an empty file called untitled1. All this text here will disappear when we start typing ourselves. So we'll start with print like we did last time. So I'll start typing it here. And as you can see, VS Code has a really handy autocomplete function. And while Idle does have its own, this one's a lot quicker and a lot more in-depth. So you can type out print, or you can just choose print from the list here. And now even for the brackets, if you hold Shift, press 9 again to get the open bracket, you'll see it also creates the close bracket in VS Code. So you don't need to worry as much if you've got an open and a close bracket. But I would always keep an eye on it just in case. Now inside the brackets, I'm going to put the number 5 again like I did last time, and my code is ready to go. Obviously the idle knew what to do with the code. As we mentioned, VS Code does need a little bit of setup. So let's get back to this walkthrough over here, and we are down to this next step, select or create a Python environment. Now, because we actually already installed Python, we can just choose this Select Python Interpreter option. And what that will do is if we click it, it will give us a list like this, and we should already have the Python version we installed. You can see here, this is the one I was using, Python 3.13.7. So I can click on this one, and you'll see we've completed this step, so we can tick this, and then finally we can just run the file. So make sure you click onto your file over here where you've got your print, and then just like in idle again, we can go to the top and press this run button. And the very first option is start debugging. It even has the same hotkey of F5. So we can click on this, and just like in idle, it's going to ask us to save it. Now you can see here, it's given it a default name of print5. I'm actually going to change this to test just like last time, or you can call it whatever you want, but just make sure you keep the .py at the end so it knows it's a Python file. And then we'll press save. So once again, it's changed this search bar at the top, and you can choose one of these options to start running it. I'll choose the Python debugger. That makes the most sense since it is a Python file. We'll click on this one. And because it's just a single file, we can just press this Python file option here. So we'll click on this, and it should, in the bottom here, just like in our idle shell, instead of having a separate window, it's at the very bottom. But you can see we've got the number 5 here. Now if I go back to my code file, which is on the right side of the window here, press enter, and once again do the print 3. Save this and then run it. We can see we once again have 5.3 at the bottom. Now we've seen a lot of things that make it similar to idle. Let's look at some of the other things that make it a bit more different. Now when we set up this project, we didn't open just one file. We opened an entire folder. So if we look on the left where we saw the extensions icon, we can go all the way up to the top and you'll see this one called Explorer with these 2 pieces of paper. If you click on this one, you can see we have our Python test folder with our test.py file in it. Now if we press this little piece of paper with the plus icon on it, you can see when we hover over it, it says new file. If we click it, it will create a brand new file. Now we need to give it a name here, so I'm going to call this test2 because I'm very creative. But remember, this needs to be a Python file. So we need to put at the end of this a dot and then py. And you'll see it changes the logo to the Python logo. So you know that this is a Python file. Now press enter and it will save the name there. And as you can see, it's created a second tab over here. So this is the other way we can manage our files, kind of like in a web browser like Google Chrome. You can have multiple tabs with multiple bits of code in. And that means you can go between them and edit them. And another thing you can do is you can drag these tabs around so you can see all these different areas it can go in. I'm going to drag it up here next to this walkthrough Python. And you can see I've got these 2 files side by side. So have a play around, you can drag them out and find all these funky configurations you can do. I'm going to keep all of mine in one place I think though, and this makes it a lot easier to manage rather than having a lot of these different windows open. Now with your code editor set up, we can actually start doing our projects.